Hi guys, welcome back to Alamat, where we translate and narrate Philippine myths, urban legends, and horror stories to share with the world. For this Valentine season, I want to share some love-related scary stories from the Philippines. I sincerely hope that the stories won't make you think twice about your partners. Without further ado, let's dive in. The first story is called My Valentine, submitted by an anonymous user. Are you sure you want them killed? The elderly woman that lived in an isolated nipa hut in the middle of the forest of Capiz, Philippines, asked. She looked at the girl intently. She walked to the wooden table that had a lot of black candles burning and lit a new one. This is not a game, girl. It would cost you your soul, she added, and threw a cold look to the girl. The girl silently nodded while keeping her head bowed all the while. She's terrified, but determined. She gently took out a pouch of paper in her pocket, which contained some hair in nail clippings, and gave it to the old lady. These are the physical representations of her intended victims, which the mangkukulam needed to inflict physical harm on the targets. A mangkukulam is some sort of a witch doctor, for the listeners out there. The elderly woman suddenly went into trance while chanting orations in some unknown language. Her eyes turned all white. She was screaming now. It seemed that all the critters in the forest were joining her because all of a sudden it was very noisy all around the surroundings. The girl was hearing lewd, violent, and revolting things being whispered in her ears. She cringed and covered her ears. She took a step back and ducked on the ground because she noticed the old woman floating in the air encircling her while still in a trance. The girl fainted. She woke up from a sharp pain coming from her left palm, and when she looked, the elderly woman was holding a sharp knife and her hand was bleeding. She panicked and tried to pry her left hand away from the old lady, but she couldn't, even with all her might. The old lady licked the girl's blood and smiled at her. The contract is sealed. You can now go home and watch it unfold. The old lady released her hand. The girl then took the opportunity to run away as fast as she could and never looked back. After a trip to Rojas City, Capiz, three friends had just returned to Manila. For some reason, they cut their Valentine's Day getaway short in the region known as the Philippines' seafood capital. And now it's time to return to their regular lives. Here we go again, Antonio grumbled as he complained about the traffic on EDSA's bustling street. The longest street in Manila is called Epifanio de los Santos Avenue, otherwise known as EDSA. Manong, please find a shorter route since I desperately need to rest, Anna said as she leaned on the left shoulder of her boyfriend and closed her eyes. She was the one who requested to go home earlier than their scheduled plan because she was not feeling well. Best friend, as long as I'm with both of you, I'm good, Juvie said. Even if I'm stuck in traffic for hours, she added. Juvie is Anna's best friend. She recently broke up with her longtime boyfriend, so Anna asked her to come with them on vacation in the hope that she will find someone there to cheer her up. Anna and Antonio were lovers and were engaged to be married. Anna is modest and down to earth, but Juvie is fierce and liberated, the exact opposite of Anna. Antonio has a well-sculpted physique and is good-looking. Juvie flirts with Anna's boyfriend whenever Anna is not around, indicating that she is interested in him. She rode in the back of the taxi instead of the front, with Antonio in the middle. When Anna fell asleep, Juvie gave Antonio a brief kiss in the ear. Antonio motioned to stop, pointing at Anna who was sleeping beside him. Juvie showed him some content of her gallery from her phone, showing their stolen intimate moments in Capiz. Antonio was surprised of how Juvie was able to take those shots. He adores Anna, but the thrill of having Juvie as his enticement is too much for him to bear. Juvie held his hand and leaned on his right shoulder. The taxi driver smiled when he saw in the rear mirror that there were two women leaning on both sides of his shoulder. When they reached their condo, Anna asked Juvie to go home, but her best friend would like to stay for a while to rest since it was still rush hour and there was still too much traffic. Anna went directly to her bed and slept. Antonio fixed their belongings while Juvie prepared food. During the time, Antonio decided to take a shower, and Juvie followed him in the bathroom. Because Juvie had left what she was cooking unattended, it had been burnt, resulting in smoke, which awoke in Anna. She turned off the stove and looked for her boyfriend. When she checked the bathroom, she found him with Juvie. The door was unlocked, which may have been purposefully left that way or just by sheer ignorance. "What is going on?" Anna screamed upon seeing that her boyfriend and best friend were taking a shower together. She entered the shower room and slapped Antonio and turned to Juvie. "You whore!" Anna was enraged, but Juvie acted more violently than her. She threw a dipper at Anna, which busted her lip. Juvie then pulled Anna's hair. "I am going to kill you," Juvie shouted. Anna collapsed to the floor and just cried out, "Traitors! Slut!" Juvie approached her, sat on her chest, and yanked her hair once more. "I am not a slut," she yelled. Antonio slapped Juvie, which caused her to stop hurting Anna. "Please leave, Juvie," Antonio exclaimed, as Anna locked herself in the bathroom. Juvie left the condo, but issued a threat to both Antonio and Anna. "I'll get my revenge on both of you. Just wait and see," she said, while holding her swollen left cheek, which Antonio slapped. She slammed the main door as she left. Antonio kept knocking at the bathroom door, asking for her girlfriend's forgiveness. Since the incident, Anna hasn't opened the restroom. And during the day, while Anna was still in the bathroom, Antonio made dinner and breakfast, and he could hear her cries from within the room. And over, he begged for forgiveness, but it was all in vain. Anna unlocked the bathroom door when Antonio fell asleep. Her eyes were puffy from sobbing, and her hair was moist, giving her a menacing appearance. She saw her boyfriend's phone unlocked and scanned his messages. She was enraged to see the private photos that Juvie sent him. She then took her phone from her bag and went back to the bathroom to cry some more. When Antonio woke up, he noticed that his penis was swelling. He could barely walk. At the sight of this, he knocked at the bathroom again. "Sweetheart," he said, "I'm really sorry, but I need to use the bathroom." He then saw some rashes on his skin, which progressed to sores all over his body. The inflammation was so irritating and terrible that he had never experienced anything like it before. He was inspecting his physique in the mirror when he noticed the rashes turned into pus-filled lumps. He could not wear anything as the clothes would stick to his wet skin, so he was naked at the moment. "I really need your help. This is so itchy and painful," Antonio exclaimed. Anna finally opened the bathroom's door and attended to her boyfriend. She was very careful as a slight touch caused too much pain to Antonio. Anna felt pity for him as his skin was already purplish in color. She noticed that his scalp had developed wounds too. "Let's go to the doctor," Anna suggested, but Antonio refused. He pointed to his left foot that was also swollen. "I can't even walk," Antonio mentioned as he held her hand, which gave him a sense of comfort. And from the pain, he fell asleep. Antonio had a bad dream about an elderly woman chanting in some unknown language while holding a dirty rag doll. The elderly lady had long grayish hair and was shrouded in twilight. She then pricks the doll with a needle, causing Antonio excruciating pain each time she does so. While smirking, the woman grabbed the doll's head and detached it from the body. When this happened, Antonio screamed and Anna woke him up and gave him a glass of water. She even helped him drink it, as it was really difficult for Antonio to move. He just took a sip of water and laid down again. "I think we need an albularyo," Antonio said. "Please call my brother and ask him to bring his neighbor, Mang Lino, here." Anna grabbed her phone and called Antonio's brother, who arrived with the albularyo that night. "Why is this happening to you?" his brother inquired. Mang Lino, whose healing method is known as Bolo Bolo, was from the province of Western Samar. He continued his faith healing when he moved to Manila 10 years ago. Since hospitalization in the city is expensive, poor sick people patronize him. He took a half-filled glass of water into which he dropped a black stone. Then he blew some air on it through a straw as the glass was passed over to Antonio's body like a scanner. The water bubbled and particles formed within the glass, which seemed drawn from Antonio's body. The black stone is like a magnet that will draw out of the body what was forced into it by the mangkukulam, Mang Lino declared. "Mangkukulam?" Antonio's brother asked. "Yes, there was a hex or a kulam on Antonio," the old man said. "I focused on removing the hex and not on who perpetrated it. There's only one person who can do this to me. It's Juvie," Antonio interrupted. "I can determine who caused it by using a tawas candle in the water," the albularyo mentioned. "There's no need for that. We already know it's Juvie," Anna remarked. She then gave a 500 peso bill to the albularyo and asked Antonio's brother to send him home. Antonio's brother wanted to spend more time with his brother, but Anna told him that she could take care of him, so she asked him to leave. With this, Antonio felt better, and he could say that he was almost instantly healed, as the swelling in his body stopped and the sores dried up. He was able to wear some clothes and ate dinner with Anna. Antonio then received a text message from Juvie asking for help. Anna saw that he was reading it, so he ignored the message and spent the night with her. When Anna woke up, she realized Antonio had left the condo. She felt furious and snatched the photograph of Antonio from the top of her bookshelf and hurled it against the wall. The frame was shattered and the glass covering was smashed as well. A shard of glass splintered and struck her in the face. It slashed her cheek, causing blood to flow. She went ballistic after looking in the mirror and wiping the blood. She began flinging whatever she could get her hands on, making a tremendous ruckus. She cried like she never did before. While she was in tears, she took her phone and she then dialed a number. "Are you sure?" the lady on the other line inquired. "Yes," Anna said, and she went inside the bathroom where she locked herself in once more. Antonio knew that Anna would be mad at him for leaving the condo, but he went to Juvie's condo to put a closure on the relationship. He was determined to leave Juvie and be loyal to Anna. Because he knew the passcode, he was able to get access to the main door. What he discovered shook him to the core. Juvie was laying in her bed, smeared with blood. Her body was riddled with sores similar to his. And to make matters worse, her head was severed from her body. Her tongue was out and her bulging eyes were open. Her face looked scared and tortured. Antonio cradled her head with both arms, unable to believe this was happening on a Valentine's Day. For him, this is the worst Valentine's Day ever. Antonio reminisced about his nightmare. He recalled the elderly woman with the rag doll. He had a strong headache as a result of the memory. He then touched his temple and noticed some rashes on his skin again. As some sores on his arms and neck returned, he became irritated once more. Despite his illness, Antonio was able to contact the authorities and Juvie's relatives, who originally accused him for her death. He was fortunate that the condo had a surveillance camera installed, and an examination of the footage indicated that he only came in later after Juvie died. No one could explain what happened to her. Antonio was released, but was told not to leave the city so he could attend further investigation. When Antonio returned to his girlfriend's condo, he was dismayed to find Anna locked herself in the bathroom once again. He couldn't persuade her to come out, and since he was too weak, he just slept until he had another awful dream. He was able to open the bathroom door in his nightmare, and when he turned on the lights, he was surprised to see some markings on the wall. The message was written in blood, and it sent shivers down his spine. "I'll torture and kill you, cheater," written on it, with cultic and sinister symbols strewn across the wall and up to the ceiling. Then he saw a terrifying image of the same old woman emerge from the toilet bowl, holding her rag doll, laughing. She was pricking it with a big needle. He then closed the bathroom door and saw another woman holding a knife, which instantly came close to him, stabbing him numerous times. Antonio woke up and was relieved that it was only a bad dream. However, his health worsened as his skin sores developed faster than the first time he got it. His skin was already dripping out with pus, and he felt that he was on the brink of death. He stood up and found out that the bathroom door was no longer locked. He turned on the lights just like what he saw in his dream. "Holy shit," he exclaimed. He saw the same writings on the wall, as if he was in the middle of a nightmare. He also saw an image of the head of the old lady in the toilet bowl smiling at him, which turned into an evil grin. He closed the restroom door and saw the other lady in his nightmare. It was Anna, with a knife in her hand, and immediately stabbed him in the stomach. Antonio fell on the floor while holding his wound. Anna revealed her true colors. She told Antonio that she knew that he and Juvie were having an affair behind her back. That's why she asked them to go to Capiz, where she can go to Amangkakulam and put a curse on them. Anna touched a wound on her left hand while telling Antonio this. Her eyes was red and full of hatred from the betrayal that she received from both the love of her life and her best friend. She smiled. "You know, killing you is not as hard as I thought. I'm even enjoying it, to tell you frankly." She moved in closer to Antonio. She transferred the knife to her left hand. Don't do this, Anna. I love you. Let's start over. Please." Antonio raised his arm as he begged. "Take me to the hospital, please." He coughed blood. "I sealed your death contract with the devil with this left hand. Now, I'm finishing you with it." Anna glared at Antonio. Her eyes were wide and beaming. Anna was so enraged by her hatred and thirst for revenge that she charged him, knife poised and ready to strike, and the struggle commenced. Antonio, who was already weak from his injuries, died as a result of many stab wounds throughout his body. Anna danced in the room, covered with his blood. Our second story for this week is about an experience the three friends had during a Valentine's Day trip out in the countryside. This tale is called My Unforgettable Valentine. To keep my identity hidden, I'll just go by the name of Empoy. I'd like to tell you about how, on Valentine's Day, I lost one of my closest friends. This occurred shortly after I had experienced one of my most devastating heartbreaks. To summarize, I discovered that my long term girlfriend had been cheating on me. I was so depressed that I considered suicide. As Valentine's Day neared, I was becoming more restless. I needed something to preoccupy my mind, a new activity, new surroundings, whatever that will remove my loneliness. As a result, I chose to spend my Valentine's Day with my best friends, Wilbert and Norman, who are lovers. Yes, they are members of the LGBTQ community. Wilbert is what you call a pink. I only learned this distinction from them. Pinks are feminine gays. They are the type that wears women's dresses, wears lipstick. You know what I mean. Norman, on the other hand, is what you call a blue. He's a closet gay. You would see just a little hint that he is gay from his actions, but nevertheless, he has chosen to live and act like a man. I accompanied them on their vacation since I didn't want to spend the frigid evenings alone at home. To be honest, I occasionally feel envious of the two when they exchange sweet nothings and make romantic gestures. I'm hoping to meet the love of my life soon. And who knows, I might find her in this trip. I came from a well to do family, and aside from that, I have earned a substantial amount of money from trading cryptocurrency. So when I told them that I would pay for everything in their Valentine's vacation, with the only condition that I would accompany them, they accepted it right away. Our story started when we were riding all-terrain vehicles or ATV in the bush near the Chocolate Hills in Carmen, Bohol, late at night of February 13, when the machine malfunctioned. We tried calling the rental company, but we did not get any quick response. We decided to abandon the vehicle and let the rental company retrieve it in the morning, and to just trek on foot. This is when we came across a man mauling a girl who was tied upside down to a narrow tree branch. The old man was hitting the girl all over her body with a whip made from the tail of a stingray, which the locals call latigo, and was telling her to spit out the black chick so that she could be freed from the evil curse. "Spit it out now," he shouted. "My God, let's help the girl," Wilbert gasped as he covered his mouth with both his hands. He motioned to Norman to stop the elderly man. Norman clumsily stood up, and we followed him and approached the man from behind. We were able to restrain the man and free the disoriented girl. The man exclaimed, "You're making a mistake. If the black chick that her manananggal aunt forced her to ingest remained in her body, she would turn into a manananggal." "You must be a crazy man," Norman responded. "Let's tie him up to the tree." "You will be responsible for this, I'm telling you," the old man yelled. I noticed that the girl vanished and said, "Where did she go?" "Maybe she was jealous of my beauty and decided to go away," Wilbert mentioned while flashing his pink outfit. Wilbert is our high school batch joker. His sense of humor is something that never left him even after he left the closet. Norman begged us to go home because it was late, and most importantly, he was already hungry. Norman has always been a chubby guy who's always hungry, even when we were in high school. I remember that he was the first one to quit our COCC or Citizen Officer Candidate course because he couldn't stand not eating for an hour. "Yeah, the girl is probably from around here. She knows how to go home. Let's just go," Wilbert added, and we went back to the Airbnb that we rented. The next morning, I watched the news on my phone and learned that an old man was found dead in the forest with his internal organs missing. It was near the location where we left the rented ATV that broke down. I was disturbed just thinking about the possibility that the old man that we tied to the tree died a gruesome death. Deep inside, I was hoping that the old man on the news was a different guy. I kept this information to myself in the fear that I may spoil this vacation of the lovers Norman and Wilbert. It was the morning of Valentine's Day when Norman asked me to accompany him to buy some presents for Wilbert, and of course, our food in the market. We ran into a beautiful lady at a shop, and I immediately recognized her as the girl we had rescued the night before. "Did you happen to be the girl we saw in the woods?" I inquired. The lady was apprehensive and tried to avoid us. She did not respond, and she ran away. I fell head over heels in love with the lady. I was smitten by her long black hair, brown skin, and mysterious face. Norman teasingly sang a song while taking a bite of a guava that we bought earlier while he was dipping it into some salt. "Let's follow her," I mentioned to Norman to follow me. "Are we going to tie her up as well?" Norman jokingly asked. "I want to see where she lives," I said. "But she surely lives in a remote house near the jungle," Norman protested. "I don't care. I would even follow her to hell." I bragged without knowing that after our trip was done, it was, in a way, exactly what happened. Sure enough, we followed her to the outskirts of the city, near the forested area. We were too exhausted from the long walk when we bumped into some locals. "Are you following Isabel?" they asked. Norman and I looked at each other. I scratched my head and admitted that I got a little crush on her. The old lady smiled and assured me that she understood. She mentioned that Isabel has a very mysterious look on her that is appealing to most guys like me. I blushed a bit and decided to ask, "Is she married?" and smiled. "No, but it's not safe in this place," the old man that accompanied the old lady said, and advised us to leave. "Go, or else you might not be able to return home," they warned us. I decided to ignore their warning and continue on. But Norman protested. "This place is weird. Besides, I'm getting hungry." He touched his tummy and continued, "We still have to cook the fish. Let's go back." He was adamant. I hesitantly agreed and muttered, "Isabel, at least now I know your name." When we got back to the Airbnb that we rented, we were surprised that Wilbert decorated it with flowers and confetti. Norman was supposed to be the one to give a surprise to Wilbert, but he was the one that was surprised the most. He hugged Wilbert and gave him a kiss. Then he brought out the gifts he bought and gave them to his lover. He bought him some chocolates and flowers. Wilbert was screaming in joy. I went to the kitchen and heated the food we bought to give them the privacy they deserve. Deep inside, I was envious of their sweetness. They both came to the kitchen after a few minutes to eat their food. And after eating, I decided to reveal my plan. "I want to serenade Isabel at her house," I said while strumming a newly bought guitar. Norman asked me, "Do you even know how to play that guitar?" "No," I scratched my head and laughed. "Since no one knows how to play the guitar, let's do it in our style, using a TikTok song and dance, and I will lead the dancing," Wilbert haughtily said. We all agreed, and after practicing, we decided to go to Isabel's house. After almost an hour of walking, we arrived at Isabel's house. A single-story hut with no electricity. It was the only man-made house in the woods. Dried nipa leaves, rattan, and bamboo made up the structure. It was very remote and surrounded by banana, nara, and mahogany trees. I saw Isabel walk up to the window and rested her right arm on her chin, gazing at the full moon. I was stunned by her beauty. I now realized she looked like your childhood sweetheart, Norman smirked, as he ate the last piece of the biscuit from his pocket. We hid in the bushes and peeked at Isabel through the open window. Isabel moved away from the open window. I then motioned that we can start the serenade. I took my smartphone and searched for the saved TikTok video in my gallery and played it. I also maxed the volume. As planned, Norman and Wilbert danced to the tune of Ronan Keating's When You Say Nothing at All while I was lip syncing. I know it's corny, but hey, I think I'm in love. Isabel gave us a blank stare as she looked at us through the window. After the serenade, she invited us in and urged us to remain for a bit. She then offered us food, which Norman devoured. He ate all the boiled bananas that had been served to us. He also dipped them in the salt that he had in his pocket. I wondered in shame, "Do you bring salt everywhere?" "We bought some from the market, remember?" Norman answered. "It's my habit to put some in my pocket since there are a lot of tropical fruits here." I noticed that he also had some garlic in his pocket. So I asked, "Don't tell me you eat raw garlic as well." "That's for his maintenance, for his hypertension, so he can eat what he wants," Wilbert explained, as Norman put the cloves of garlic back in his pocket. Isabel seemed allergic to garlic and salt, so she left the house and told us she would get something we could take home. "This is weird," Wilbert whispered while holding a sweet potato. It took her a lot of time to prepare this coffee and boil the sweet potato, but it's not hot anymore. He got the feeling that Isabel was trying to delay us. I got irritated and warned him, "Come on, don't insult somebody's hospitality." "It's almost midnight," Norman interjected and cut our conversation off. "It really feels like something is wrong," said Wilbert as he stood and walked a few steps near the door. "Call it woman's intuition if you will, but I'm really sensing something wrong here." I laughed when I heard the word woman. But however, Isabel is indeed taking a long time to return, and I was getting worried for her. So I stood up and told the two, "Isabel might be in danger. I think we should look for her." I then stepped out of the house, and the two had no choice but to follow me. Norman picked up the boiled sweet potato that fell from his grip, despite the fact that he had a lot of it already. "There she is," he pointed to the direction of Isabel, using his lips. "What is this strange woman up to in the middle of the night?" Wilbert remarked. I could hear fear from his voice. I wanted to lessen the fear from the two, so we peeked at Isabel, who went to the banana trees near her house. There we saw Isabel stripping out of her clothes and applied what seems like an oil from the carabao's horn all over her body. We were all shocked at the sight. I attempted to cover Wilbert and Norman's eyes with my left and right hands. Wilbert hid his face behind his hands before my hand reached him. "I don't want to see this. It's horrible. I want to see a nude man instead," Wilbert whispered. Norman removed my hand as he was taking a big bite of the sweet potato, but spat out what he had in his mouth when he saw that Isabel was convulsing. We were horrified by what we were seeing. Isabel's body sprouted two massive bat-like wings. Her mouth revealed a very sharp and dreadfully long sharp tongue, while producing a tiny ticking sound repeatedly. Then the upper half of her torso separated from the lower part of her body, and she flew away. For a little while, we stood there frozen, not knowing what to do or what just happened. But after everything sinked in, we all sprinted away from the place. I ran the fastest among us because Wilbert was having problems with his clothes clinging to some shrubs, while Norman was distracted, picking up the sweet potatoes that would fall from his hands. Then we heard a ticking sound from above, followed by a loud flapping of wings. Wilbert and Norman were able to catch up to me while I was resting under a mahogany tree. "Do you still know the way back?" Wilbert cried. I shrugged my shoulders and shouted as I pointed to something on top of the tree. "Look," I said. The manananggal was there, clinging on a branch and looking at us intently. She was grinning. Her eyes were blood-soaked red. You could see evil intention on her face. It was very unnerving. She flew closer to us, but Wilbert was quick to take the sweet potatoes from Norman and threw them at Isabel. "But my food," Norman protested. It was at this point that I shouted, "Run!" which everyone did as fast as they could. Norman, surprisingly, no longer cared about the sweet potatoes falling from his hands. Same with Wilbert, who was also no longer mindful of his outfit being ruined by the thorns of the shrubbery. After what seemed like an endless time of running, we found ourselves back at Isabel's house, while Isabel was still in hot pursuit. It was only then that we realized that we were running in circles all this time. Norman collapsed on the front door of Isabel's house. Wilbert and I wasted no time, and we immediately picked him up and dragged him inside the house. We scrambled to close all the doors and windows and barricaded it with anything that we could find inside the house. The sound of Isabel's flapping wings and her ticking noises was deafening. We were all shaking uncontrollably, and we were cowering together in one corner, when suddenly the sound stopped. It was then that Wilbert saw Isabel's evil face peeping in one of the open crevices on the bamboo walls. She was looking straight into Wilbert's eyes. She was grinning, almost like smiling, but revealing her sharp teeth. You could see the delight in her eyes to see us cowering in fear. She flew and made a loud shriek. Her bloodlust, together with the ecstasy of the hunt, must be overwhelming. Wilbert almost fainted at the sight. Norman and I scanned the roof and saw that it was made of dried nipa grass. Isabel could just easily claw her way inside if she wanted to. But instead, she was toying with us as a predator toys with its prey. I saw Isabel making a small hole on top of the nipa roof of her house. She definitely knows the nooks and crannies of this house as it was hers. She peeked inside and looked at Norman intently. I saw her tongue protruding and her grotesque face made me close my eyes. I was taken aback by what happened next when I opened my eyes. Wilbert managed to save Norman by pushing him, but unfortunately, Wilbert fell victim instead and collapsed to the ground convulsing. His eyes became totally white and his body seemed suddenly severely dehydrated. Norman and I cried in fear while trying to attend to our friend. We noticed something like a straw attached to Wilbert's ear that went to the roof of the house. As soon as I grabbed it, it moved violently as if it was alive. I did not let go and grabbed it with both of my hands. Seeing what's happening, Norman quickly roamed the house to find something to cut it with. It was not long when he found a knife and proceeded to cut it. Blood sprayed down on us almost immediately, followed by Isabel shouting in pain. It was her tongue. She got more ferocious and is now hell-bent on finishing us. She forcibly tore into the dry grass roof of her house and dove straight into Wilbert, who was barely breathing on the ground. Norman was crying and was inconsolable about what happened to his love. We both tried to approach and fight for Wilbert, but Isabel looked at us and growled. Wilbert's blood was flowing from her mouth. We both fell backwards. Wilbert was not moving anymore. I decided to save ourselves instead. I grabbed Norman's shirt and ran the other way, going to the back door, and frantically removed the barricades. Once the door was open, we bolted straight to the banana trees. Not long after, we both tripped over Isabel's lower half. We looked at each other, and without talking, Norman took all the salt and garlic from his pocket and poured it on Isabel's innards. I scrambled on the ground and did the same, but instead of salt, I poured soil, rocks, and anything I could grab from the ground. Isabel must have drained Wilbert's body before turning her attention to us. She flew out of the hole on the roof and was shocked to see Norman and me next to her defiled lower half. She was enraged and went berserk. She vowed vengeance and cursed us. She screamed that she would kill us, and while salivating at the thought, the first line of dawn hit her. She must have realized that she had to go back to her human form. Recognizing that she had no lower half to get back into, Isabel tried to attack Norman, but she was hit by sunlight. We saw her hesitate for a minute and then burst into flames. It looked like a burning huge bat spiraling down to the ground. I was torn between feelings. I had deep feelings with the manananggal who almost killed us, but I had to protect myself and my friends. I told Norman to go ahead and get some help. He arrived sometime later with some locals who helped us get back to the city. Many people will doubt the manananggal's existence, but yet here we are, despondently grieving in front of Wilbert's grave for the death of my courageous friend and Norman's heroic lover. That's it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this Valentine's episode. And if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, share this channel to your friends and family. If you have stories you want me to narrate, send me an email at mrlmatph@gmail.com. Once again, guys, thank you and see you in the next one.